have to apologize for being white anymore. And if you're an Asian, you don't have to talk around your skin color when you're applying for college, because we judge people based on who they are, not on ethnicity and things they can't control. We don't persecute you for being male, for being straight, for being gay, for being anything. The only thing that we demand is that you be a great American patriot, and if you're that, you're very much on our team.
Nobody.
What up? Thank y'all for listening.
Rarely have I witnessed or any time a government or a group of people apologizing for being white itself. When apologies happen, they are for actions committed by governments or institutions dominated by white people, not for racial identity. So here's the clear breakdown of what I'm configuring. What has not happened is no government or major institution has formally apologized for being white as an identity. There is no official apology for whiteness itself in law, diplomacy, or international relations. Claims that white people are being forced to apologize for being white are political rhetoric, not historical fact. What has happened is an important distinction. Governments apologizing for historical injustices. These apologies are for specific actions, not race. Give an example, like in the United States, there have been some apologies for slavery, symbolic resolutions, not universal reparations, which are very much legally entitled to the people and those descendants. And they very much know this. Jim Crow laws. The Japanese American Internment Civil Liberties Act of 1988, and the Japanese were reparated for their internment in the United States. We can also go to other countries like Canada, which have made apologies for residential schools and treatment of indigenous people. Australia, apology to the stolen generations of indigenous children taken from families. United Kingdom, apologies related to colonial abuse. Like, for example, Kenya's Maya Mayo uprising. In all cases, these apologies were framed as stated responsibility, not racial guilt. Now, with institutions acknowledging white privilege or systemic biases, universities, corporations, churches, and nonprofits issue statements acknowledging benefits from systems favoring white people, apologize from past discriminatory policies, and institutions have practiced slavery profiteering as well. So let's not get off the fact that America is built off profiteering off of slavery and the buy labor and the products of that. Churches apologizing for supporting slavery or segregation, that's not far-fetched. Universities acknowledging ties to slave labor. Again, it's not an apology for being white, but for institutional behavior. You can even trickle it down to individuals or activist statements. Some individuals, often activists and public figures, have said things like, I apologize for my privilege, I'm sorry for the harm my group has caused. There are personal expressions, not official apologies. Often symbolic or rhetorical, sometimes controversial, even within progressive circles. So they do not represent governments or entire populations. Why this distinction matters, apologizing for identity versus actions are fundamentally different. Identity-based apology implies moral guilt by birth. Generally, that's rejected because we know not all white people walk around with a feeling of because I'm white and there was some things that happened back then that, people that look like me have done. I feel like I'm responsible for that. Action-based apology acknowledges historical systemic harm while it accepted in laws and ethics. So most of democracies explicitly reject the ideal of collective racial guilt. Bottom line is, governments and institutions have apologized for historical injustices. No government or serious entity has apologized for being white. Confusing the two is often used to inflame cultural or political debate. If you want, I could break down where that myth comes from, show media examples that get misinterpreted, compare this to apologies made by other groups worldwide, or analyze moral or historical lens. U.S. Vice President JD Vance recently made a statement at a political event in the United States of America. You don't have to apologize for being white anymore. So I like to ask the U.S. Vice President JD Vance, in what circle of people have you had to apologize for being white for? And I'll ask anyone else, have they ever had to apologize for being white? Because I've never, ever had someone come up to me or any group and blatantly say, man, because what happened back then or whatever the case may be, I apologize for being white, because it's not even cause for it. And because in this nation, all the things that have happened, he made a statement like this, and people are looking at this and adding context and framing it in a way that they may think you're critiquing diversity and inclusion policies. Right, but you did mention Asians. You mentioned a group of people. And you also mentioned anti-ethnic rhetoric, as if there's ever been the status quo in this nation. As a Native Black American, just because of my darker skin hue, that's not a DEI inclusion to give me any type of opportunity that I want. So you need to reconfigure what you're talking about if you're trying to latch that DEI onto a handout in this nation.